In a bustling corporate office located in the heart of a thriving city, tensions simmer beneath the surface of an otherwise professional environment. The company, a well-established enterprise in the tech industry, is known for its innovation and cutting-edge products. However, behind the sleek facade lies a culture that is not as progressive as it appears. At the center of this story is Marcus, a young, talented black employee who has been with the company for several years. Despite his hard work and dedication, Marcus is often overlooked for promotions and recognition, his contributions dismissed by those in power. His immediate supervisor, Mr. Thompson, is a middle-aged manager with a reputation for being strict, but what many don't realize is that his behavior toward Marcus is fueled by deep-seated racial prejudice. Mr. Thompson's disdain for Marcus is palpable. He frequently belittles him in front of colleagues, assigning him menial tasks far below his skill level. The tension between them escalates when Marcus, after completing a successful project that significantly boosts the company's revenue, is denied any credit. Instead, Mr. Thompson takes full ownership of the accomplishment, further marginalizing Marcus. The situation becomes even more unbearable when Mr. Thompson humiliates Marcus during a team meeting, making derogatory comments that leave the room in uncomfortable silence. Marcus, though deeply hurt, remains composed, knowing that any outburst could jeopardize his career. Yet, the injustice gnaws at him, and he begins to question whether he can continue working in such a toxic environment. Unbeknownst to both Marcus and Mr. Thompson, the company's ownership is about to shift. The founder, Mr. Thompson's father, has recently retired, and the reins of the company have been handed over to his son, Ethan Thompson. Ethan, a progressive and forward-thinking individual, has spent the last few years away from the company, working in various international markets. Upon his return, Ethan is determined to modernize the company's culture and eliminate the discriminatory practices that have long been swept under the rug. When Ethan witnesses firsthand the way Mr. Thompson treats Marcus, he is appalled. The stage is set for a dramatic confrontation, as Ethan must now decide whether to protect the legacy of his family or stand up for what is right, even if it means confronting his own father. The unfolding events will challenge the characters' beliefs, pushing them to reconsider their values and the true meaning of leadership in a modern world. In a bustling corporate office, tensions are high as employees rush to meet deadlines. Among them is Marcus, a diligent and hardworking black employee who has been with the company for several years. Despite his dedication, he's never been treated with the respect he deserves by his manager, Mr. Thompson, who harbors deeply ingrained racist tendencies. Mr. Thompson often belittles Marcus in front of others, assigning him menial tasks that are far below his skill level, and making snide remarks about his background. The other employees, aware of the tension, remain silent, not wanting to get involved. Marcus, though hurt, has always tried to remain professional, hoping that his hard work will eventually speak for itself. One day, Mr. Thompson goes too far. In a meeting, he publicly humiliates Marcus, accusing him of incompetence and suggesting that he only got the job because of diversity quotas. The room falls silent, and Marcus, visibly shaken, tries to defend himself, but his words are drowned out by Mr. Thompson's condescending tone. The other employees exchange uncomfortable glances, but no one steps in to stop the tirade. Feeling powerless, Marcus leaves the meeting, his confidence shattered. He contemplates quitting, wondering if all his efforts have been in vain. But little does he know, the company's new owner, who recently took over from his father, has been observing everything from the shadows. This new owner, a young and progressive man, is none other than Mr. Thompson's son, Ethan. Ethan, having grown up with a very different worldview than his father, is appalled by what he's witnessed. He decides it's time to confront the toxic culture his father has fostered within the company. The next day, Ethan calls a meeting with the entire staff, including Marcus and Mr. Thompson. In front of everyone, Ethan addresses the incident, making it clear that racism and discrimination will not be tolerated under his leadership. He praises Marcus for his hard work and dedication, promoting him to a higher position within the company. Thompson, shocked and humiliated, tries to defend his actions, but Ethan cuts him off, stating that there's no place for such behavior in the company. The employees, who had once remained silent, now applaud Ethan's decision, feeling a renewed sense of hope and unity. As the dust settles, Marcus finds himself in a new role, one where his talents are finally recognized and appreciated. He forms a close working relationship with Ethan, who values his input and perspective. Together, they work to reshape the company's culture, ensuring that it becomes a place where all employees, regardless of their background, are treated with respect and dignity. Thompson, on the other hand, is left to reflect on his actions, realizing that his outdated beliefs have cost him not only his position but also the respect of his son. Tensions escalate when the manager, unaware of the true ownership, publicly berates the black employee, pushing him to the edge. In a shocking twist, the employee reveals his connection to the company's heir, the manager's son, who overhears the confrontation. Secrets unravel, and loyalties are tested. The day had started like any other for Marcus, a diligent employee who had worked at the company for over 5 years. He had always prided himself on his work ethic, his ability to remain calm under pressure, and his dedication to the company's success. However, things had taken a dark turn when the new manager, Mr. Roberts, was hired. From the very beginning, it was clear that Roberts had a problem with Marcus, though it wasn't immediately obvious why. Subtle comments, dismissive gestures, and unnecessary criticisms soon gave way to overt hostility. It became apparent that Roberts harbored racist views, and Marcus found himself increasingly targeted. The tension between them grew, simmering beneath the surface, until it finally boiled over. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Roberts publicly humiliated Marcus in front of his colleagues. The manager criticized his work, not based on its merit, but with thinly veiled racist undertones. He made comments that questioned Marcus's intelligence and capability, insinuating that he only had his job because of diversity quotas. Marcus, who had always handled himself with grace, felt the sting of the words but remained composed. His colleagues exchanged uncomfortable glances, aware of the injustice but unsure how to react. The room was thick with tension, and the moral dilemma weighed heavily on everyone present. Should they speak up and risk their own positions, or stay silent and allow the abuse to continue? What Roberts didn't know, however, was that Marcus wasn't just any employee. Marcus's father had founded the company decades ago, and though Marcus had chosen to work his way up from the bottom, his family still maintained ownership. Marcus's son, David, had recently taken over as CEO, though he had kept a low profile, preferring to observe the company's operations before making any major changes. David had heard rumors of Roberts's behavior, but he wanted to see for himself how the manager treated his employees. Unbeknownst to Roberts, David had been observing the meeting from a distance, watching as his father was belittled and insulted. The moral dilemma for David was complex. On one hand, he wanted to protect his father and ensure that no one in the company was subjected to such treatment. On the other hand, he needed to handle the situation delicately, ensuring that the company's reputation wasn't damaged by a public scandal. He knew that firing Roberts immediately would be satisfying, but it wouldn't address the deeper issues of racism and toxic management within the company. David had to decide whether to make an example of Roberts or to use this as an opportunity to implement broader changes that would prevent such behavior in the future. As the tension mounted, David decided to confront Roberts directly. He entered the room, and the atmosphere shifted immediately. Roberts, unaware of David's identity, greeted him with the same arrogance he had shown Marcus. But when David introduced himself as the CEO and Marcus's son, the color drained from Roberts's face. The room fell silent as David calmly but firmly addressed the situation. He made it clear that such behavior would not be tolerated in the company, not just because of his personal connection to Marcus, but because it went against the values the company stood for. David then turned to the rest of the employees, encouraging them to speak up if they ever witnessed or experienced similar behavior. His message was clear: silence in the face of injustice was complicity. In the days that followed, Roberts was quietly dismissed, and David began implementing new policies aimed at fostering a more inclusive and respectful workplace. He held meetings with employees at all levels, encouraging open dialogue about the challenges they faced and the changes they wanted to see. Marcus, though shaken by the incident, continued to work with the same dedication he always had, knowing that his son's leadership would steer the company in the right direction. The climax of the situation had passed, but the consequences of Roberts's actions lingered, serving as a reminder that the fight against racism and discrimination was far from over. In a bustling corporate office, tensions had been brewing for months. The manager, Mr. Thompson, had a reputation for being tough, but it was his subtle, racially charged remarks that made life unbearable for many employees. Among them was Marcus, a hardworking black employee who had been with the company for years. Despite his dedication, Marcus was often the target of Mr. Thompson's condescending attitude, especially when it came to promotions or important tasks. Marcus had learned to keep his head down, hoping his work would eventually speak for itself. But no matter how much effort he put in, it seemed like Mr. Thompson always found a way to belittle him. One particularly busy afternoon, Marcus was called into Mr. Thompson's office. The manager barely looked up from his desk as Marcus entered. "You're late," Mr. Thompson said coldly, though Marcus was right on time. "I need this report done by the end of the day. And make sure it's perfect this time." His tone was sharp, and the underlying message was clear. He didn't think Marcus was capable of doing anything right. Marcus nodded, biting his tongue as he took the stack of papers. This wasn't the first time he'd been treated this way, but today felt different. There was something in the air, a tension that Marcus couldn't quite place. As he left the office, Marcus overheard Mr. Thompson on the phone. "I don't know why we keep people like him around," the manager sneered. "They're always so slow, always making mistakes. If it were up to me, I'd get rid of him and hire someone who actually knows what they're doing." Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He had always suspected that Mr. Thompson's disdain for him went deeper than just work performance, but hearing it confirmed was a punch to the gut. He clenched his fists, trying to keep his emotions in check. He had a family to support, and he couldn't afford to lose this job. Later that day, Marcus was working diligently on the report when the door to the office swung open. In walked a young man, sharply dressed and exuding confidence. It was David, the owner's son, who had recently joined the company after finishing his business degree. David had always been friendly with Marcus, often stopping by to chat or ask for advice on how things worked within the company. But today, there was a seriousness in his demeanor that Marcus hadn't seen before. David made his way straight to Mr. The door was slightly ajar, and Marcus could hear the conversation that followed. "Mr. Thompson," David began, his voice firm, "we need to talk." There was a pause, and then Mr. Thompson's voice, dripping with arrogance, responded, "What can I do for you, David? Need some advice on how to run things around here?" David didn't waste any time. "Actually, it's about how you're running things. I've been hearing some disturbing reports about how you've been treating certain employees, particularly Marcus." The room went silent for a moment, and Marcus could feel his heart racing. Was David really standing up for him? Thompson scoffed. "Marcus? He's incompetent. I've given him chance after chance, but he just can't keep up. Some people just aren't cut out for this kind of work, you know." David's voice grew colder. "I know exactly what you're implying, and it stops today. Marcus is one of the most dedicated employees we have. I've seen his work, and it's exceptional. The problem isn't with him, it's with you." The confrontation escalated quickly. Thompson, clearly taken aback, tried to defend himself. "You're too young to understand how things work around here. I've been managing this place for years, and I know who's worth keeping and who isn't." David didn't back down. "And I've been watching how you manage, and it's unacceptable. This company was built on the principles of fairness and respect, and you've violated those principles time and time again. I won't allow you to treat people like this anymore." There was another long pause before Mr. Thompson spoke again, his voice now laced with desperation. "You can't just walk in here and tell me how to do my job. Your father put me in charge for a reason." David's response was swift and decisive. "My father trusted you to manage this company with integrity, but you failed. As of today, you're no longer the manager here. I'll be taking over, and you can either leave quietly or face a formal investigation into your conduct." The weight of David's words hung in the air. Marcus, still at his desk, could hardly believe what he was hearing. For so long, he had endured Mr. Thompson's abuse, thinking there was no way out. But now, in a matter of minutes, everything had changed. Thompson tried to protest, but it was clear he had lost. With a final huff, he stormed out of the office, slamming the door behind him. David emerged a moment later, his expression softening as he approached Marcus. "I'm sorry it took so long," he said quietly. "But things are going to be different from now on." Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. For the first time in years, he felt like he could breathe again. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't think anyone would ever stand up for me." David smiled. "You deserve better, Marcus. We all do." With that, he patted Marcus on the shoulder and walked away, leaving Marcus to reflect on how quickly things had turned around. The future suddenly seemed a lot brighter. As the dust settled on the events that transpired, the characters found themselves irrevocably changed. The manager, whose deep-seated prejudices had led him to humiliate his black employee, was forced to confront the consequences of his actions. His shock upon discovering that the very person he had demeaned was not only integral to the company's success but also connected to its ownership, shattered his sense of superiority. This moment of reckoning served as a powerful reminder that no one is above accountability, regardless of their position or preconceived notions. The manager's downfall was not just a personal failure but a reflection of a broader societal issue, one that demands continuous introspection and change. For the black employee, the experience was both painful and empowering. While the humiliation he endured was unjust and disheartening, the revelation of his connection to the company's owner allowed him to reclaim his dignity. More importantly, it highlighted his resilience and professionalism in the face of adversity. His character development was marked not by vengeance but by grace, choosing to rise above the manager's ignorance rather than stoop to his level. His journey serves as an inspiration to others who face similar struggles, illustrating that strength lies not in retaliation but in maintaining one's integrity. The son, who owned the company, played a pivotal role in ensuring that justice was served. His intervention was not just an act of familial loyalty but a demonstration of ethical leadership. By holding the manager accountable, he set a precedent for how businesses should operate, rooted in respect, fairness, and inclusivity. His actions underscored the importance of creating work environments where every individual is valued, regardless of race or background. In doing so, he not only protected the company's reputation but also reinforced the idea that true leadership involves standing up for what is right, even when it is uncomfortable. As we reflect on this narrative, it becomes clear that change starts with each of us. Whether in the workplace or in society at large, we must challenge discriminatory behavior and advocate for equality. It is not enough to be passive observers. We must actively work to dismantle systems of oppression and create spaces where everyone can thrive. Let this story serve as a call to action, to speak up when we witness injustice, to educate ourselves and others, and to foster environments where respect and dignity are the norm. Only then can we hope to build a world where such incidents become relics of the past.